Now, however, the once visible and energetic figure, Chris Obore, has gone unusually quiet. Efforts to reach him hit dead ends, with phones switched off and his whereabouts unclear.
The telephone number you have called is not available at the moment. Please try again later.
All right, NTV. You didn't have this gentleman then. You tried calling him, and for that lady to say the telephone number you have called is not available at the moment. Please try again later. Now, I shouldn't be the one to remind you that you now have him. What is he saying? Because when you're doing this report, you are not able to locate him, not even access him through calling him. Now you just posted. You have him here at the parliament. What does he have to say about this corruption? These are questions that should be asked, not this word salad that he's engaging in, or the separation of power, the executive and judiciary and legislature. As though they care, they don't care at all. He shouldn't be asked these kind of questions. He's hiding in those. He might actually give you 4 hours of him making commentary about the separation of power, because he knows, and he might actually say, I'm going to give you commentary about this topic, and please do not stop me, because he knows the moment he takes a breath, you're going to ask him about the corruption and the arrest of his boss, or former boss.
You're watching Mordecai Marissa Live Political Commentary. Please consider subscribing to help grow Uganda's Voices of Struggle ecosystem. Thank you.
I cannot appreciate you enough for using your valuable time to always go on social media, break down things for people.
And yes, indeed, broadcasting to you once again from these United States of the Americas. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. From wherever you're watching me and at whatever time you might enjoy this conversation. My name is Mordecai Marissa, and you're once again welcome to Mordecai Marissa Live. Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, I immensely appreciate you all, especially those who watch these English commentaries. I usually change languages. This is English. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to be talking about Chris Obore. You know, many Ugandans on social media yesterday were not happy with what they saw. They were questioning how Chris Obore, former, I don't know whether, is he still the communications director at the Ugandan parliament? How he remains untouched while his former boss, former Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, continues to face the full weight of state action. You saw what happened last week. Her homes were raided, her very luxurious cars seized, and up to now we've been told, we have reports that she's kept under strict restrictions, very tight ones, house arrest, if you may. Yet Obore, who was at the center of these corruption allegations or financial impropriety, continues, to be untouched. Nobody's questioning this guy. His business as usual. I'm going to go on and show you here. Yesterday, this was posted by New Vision, and I'm going to have to read you a few comments from the Ugandan people. Look here. Parliament is director of communications. He stayed in this position. This is why we've argued. I'm going to come back to that point. This was never about corruption, but Parliament is director of communication. Chris Obore has clarified the constitutional division of power between the executive, legislature, and during the vetting process. I mean, there's no difference here. There's no separation of power in Uganda. Speaker of Parliament is pretty much remote controlled by Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. He's actually not elected. They're usually selected by Museveni. And you can't go against that. I don't understand. Look, one of the dangers of living in dictatorships, you get to a point where people just use terms for the sake of using them. Or the principle of the separation of power, as though we have that in Uganda. Flavian Nzeija, that's his name, the leader, the leader of the Supreme Court of Uganda, Chief Justice. He speaks in a very bullish arrogant style because he wants to impress Museveni. So listen to this. Listen to this guy.
Lero, the minister, the vetting committee. The president awadikire baluwa ku speaker.
President awandikira baluwa ku speaker yamugamba ta.
The speaker atavinga for candidates byonna.
For candidates byonna, what do you mean?
Olunaku agenda communicate mu president. Buli nominee ajja ku speaker ne CVA. Let the speaker finishes this complicated part of the president.
Depends
on how the process goes. Yeah. But immediately it's done, it's communicated back to the president. That is a communication between the president and the Speaker of Parliament. If there is anything, they speak to the president who will announce the successful nominees, not Parliament. Because the communication is between Parliament, the Speaker and the president.
See? And then you had Ugandans respond here. Look here. Looks like the guy is stealing things. To many people's, what does that? Okay. Kali, we are gullible population. I told the people that the state is playing around just to destroy a reputation and public trust. It was already a destroyed one. Come on, what are you even talking about? And this guy is asking, what the F is he doing at Parliament? Okay, from today I need to start minding my business because how is this guy not in jail? These are Ugandan people. You want to read there. This one says, wait, this fool is still at the Parliament? I thought the man was inside. Every Ugandan is going like, what's going on? You know. Then this one says, Daily Monitor, we don't delete here. Read here. Parliament's Director Chris Obore has clarified the constitution, blah, blah, blah. And then they go here. Where is Obore supposed to be right now? Every Ugandan is asking this. The man is stealing things. He got small in just 2 weeks. Why is this MF not in prison yet? He's been humbled and stuff like that. Ugandans are asking questions. Why is Chris Obore not in prison? Because, like I said, he was at the center of all these controversies. I'm going to show you. So Ugandans are asking, if really the crackdown we saw was truly about accountability, why is this guy, Chris Obore, has not been subjected to the same scrutiny? Well, he is not Speaker of Parliament, so you might not use the same force. But he needs to explain because he was an accomplice in these questionable expenditures that dominated public debate. He's at the Parliament and he continues to operate as though nothing happened. He's not even come out to explain. This is how they take us for fools. He's not even coming out to explain. Like, hey, this is what's going on. That's his former boss. Why not even the members of the press asking questions? Chris Obore, how do you end up in this position? Tell us about Anita Among. Like, why are we moving on like everything is normal? I understand. That's what the Museveni criminal regime would want to know. But we don't have people who are going to press this guy. Be like, hey, give us a comment about the raiding of your boss's homes and the confiscation of some of her vehicles. At least one comment. Especially now, NTV covered this story, remember? This was when they were trying to tell you, hey, you got to watch this. The story is here. They named it, I need to show you the entire screen. Okay, right there. They named it Chris Obore, man who ate in Amongo's palms until things fall apart. Looks like he's still. There might be the absence of Anita Among, but he's still right there. Watch this story, ladies and gentlemen.
5 years ago, when Anita Among rose to the speakership, one man celebrated as though he had personally won the lottery of life. That man was Chris Obore, now the famous architect of the legendary phrase, "We are in things." And indeed, at that time, they truly were in things. Last year, When the ruling party declared Among unopposed for the Bukedia woman MP seat, Obore once again danced, rolled on the ground, shouted with excitement and celebrated like a man who had finally crossed from the village trading center into State House itself. The jubilation was so intense that social media users joked that he nearly dislocated his happiness. But politics has a cruel habit of changing seasons very quickly. Today, the music has faded, the dance floor is empty, and the once loud "We Are in Things" anthem now sounds more like a distant funeral hymn. To understand how Obore arrived at this moment, one has to rewind the political tape. Before becoming Parliament's communication boss, Obore worked as a journalist at Daily Monitor. He was later recruited into...
What NTV was trying to show you is this man was closely related to Anita Among. They were saying, now that you see this state going after Anita Among, some of her immediate accomplices in this corruption racket was Chris Obore. Why is he still free? We've not heard of any interrogations. I mean, let me go on and show you here. Reporter, this is what Agatha Hyre reported. This was actually 2024. She says, in 2014, Chris Obore wrote a story saying depositing public funds on public accounts, on personal accounts, is prohibited. The funds in question amounted to 650 million shillings. In 2024, when it was discovered that about 2 billion shillings was deposited on his account alone in a space of 8 months, he said it was allowed for staff in high positions to receive public funds on their personal accounts. This was what he wrote. Government financial regulations prohibit accountants to deposit public funds on personal accounts. Another 200 million shillings, a million daily office, blah, blah, blah. He goes on to be like, oh, this is wrong. We shouldn't, you know. And when he became close to Anita Among, they're posting billions of money on his personal account. There's proof right here. Here's his name, Chris Obore. Chris, probably you want to see it there. It's turned the other way. Chris Obore, up to here. Obore Chris. And how much money? 50 million shillings. 300 million shillings. 250 million shillings. Up to billions of shillings. No one is asking questions. He's not been interrogation or even summoned. Nobody's even asking him a question in relation to that. Ask him that question and let us see how he runs away or he says, oh, I don't want to comment on that. Because I remember when NTV covered this story, this is what they said. This is what they did. They tried calling him. Listen here.
Dead ends, with phones switched off and his whereabouts uncleared fluently. Now, however, the once visible and energetic figure, Chris Obore, has gone unusually quiet. Efforts to reach him hit dead ends, with phones switched off and his whereabouts unclear.
The telephone number you have called is not available at the moment. Please try again later.
All right, NTV. You didn't have this gentleman then. You tried calling him, and for that lady to say the telephone number you have called is not available at the moment. Please try again later. Now, I shouldn't be the one to remind you that you now have him. What is he saying? Because when you are doing this report, you are not able to locate him, not even access him through calling him. Now you just posted. You have him here at the parliament. What does he have to say about this corruption? These are questions that should be asked, not this word salad that he's engaging in, or the separation of power, the executive and judiciary and legislature, as though they care. They don't care at all. He shouldn't be asking these kind of questions. He's hiding in those. He might actually give you 4 hours of him making commentary about the separation of power, because he knows, and he might actually say, I'm going to give you commentary about this topic, and please do not stop me, because he knows the moment he takes a breath, you're going to ask him about the corruption and the arrest of his boss or former boss. Let us not sleep and let this, look at him. After answering, he just walks away.
Calero, the president, who will announce the successful nominees, not parliament. Because the communication is between parliament, the speaker, and the president.
And he just walks away. No! It should be asked. Now, am I surprised that he's free? Absolutely not. Because like I said, this was never about corruption. It is because Anita Among was sort of becoming ambitious, and his ambitions were becoming inconvenient to those at the top of the leadership structure in Uganda. But still, journalism must continue asking questions. Like the Washington Post says, democracy dies in darkness. Failing to ask Chris Obore, letting him run his mouth on less important conversations, is letting democracy die in darkness. Jeez. Let me know what you think. But please, if you are, oh my, I can't wait to hear what he is going to say if he's asked. Is he going to deny? Is he going to say, the reports were blown out of proportion? What's going to be the go-to excuse regarding what happened to his former boss, Anita Among? Sad. All right, my name is Mordecai Murisa. I'll be here now. I am back from my rest. I had 2 days of resting without producing any video, but I'm now big and better. Okay, bye-bye for now.
Did you enjoy what you just watched?
I'm sure they did.
I'm going to guess that you did. How about you consider subscribing to Mordecai Marissa Live YouTube channel? Thank you.